between trade calculators, rankings, league analyzers, you have a lot of tools at your disposal to help you win your dynasty leagues. The main problem is and remains that most of these tools either suck or people use them completely wrong. So in terms of trade calculators, let's start with trade calculators. Trade calculators are good for a couple of things. They're good as a starting point, right? You can use a trade calculator, type in some, whether it's our preferred trade calculator is the Flock trade calculator. Why? Because there was actual thought behind people who know how to play Dynasty that went into this trade calculator, right? And so it's good for when you go to the Flock site, you type in your trade, it's good to know, okay, I'm destroying on this trade, or this trade is within the margins of being fair, right? Value fair. So that's a good starting point. You can use trade calculators for that, and that's fine. You can use trade calculators to show you the extremes. It can show you basically like, okay, this is way, way off. I shouldn't even consider this trade. Like it's not even considered close to value fair. And then the point of that is, no matter which trade calculator you're using, most of them are going to be right within like a certain percentage. Like most of them are going to have like, a good chunk in the middle where they are relatively close. But then there's always going to be that outside range where every trade calculator will agree, yeah, that's an outlier. That's not a winning trade, right? Okay, so you can use it to find the extremes in trades. You can also use trade calculators, get this, to use against other people. That's the best way to use a trade calculator, right? Now, we use the Flock trade calculator because A, it's more accurate, but B, again, good thought went into making it. But, for years, we used Keep Trade Cut against people because Keep Trade Cut is hot garbage awful in terms of their trade calculator. And I won't even sit here and tell you that every single trade calculator or any specific trade calculator is exactly accurate, because the fact of the matter is you cannot compute how humans perceive value. There are ways to make better trade calculators. Trust me, I know there are. But in terms of using them to determine who wins a trade, number one, it's always going to be some level of subjective, because even though the market value is going to be set in stone for certain deals, set in stone for certain players, market value fluctuates among even individual communities within Dynasty. And so with that, you're never going to actually, again, with trade calculators, using them against people, saying, look at this. If you get somebody who, and I love it when this happens when we're in a league, we get somebody, we start trading with them, they send you a Keep Trade Cut screenshot. I'm like, okay.
I'll send you a screenshot.
I'll send you some screenshots right now.
I'll send you this one that I just made.
Yeah.
Puka Nacua, apparently value equivalent to Bo Nix, Derrick Henry, and a 25-second.
Okay, so I will say in terms of trade calculator and mathematical theory, the main thing that's wrong with trade calculators is that you can stack enough irrelevant pieces to equal a relevant piece. When in reality, with how player value exponentially decreases as you go through in drafts, you shouldn't be able to stack any amount of players to equal a first or second round pick like that. Okay, I'm just telling you that. So what are trade calculators? That's what trade calculators are good for. They're good for starting points, using against people, whatever. What are they bad for? They're bad for deciding who wins and loses a trade. Terrible for that. It's not going to ever give you the correct answer for that. It's number one, that's really subjective. But number two, trade calculators are always going to be very, very inaccurate with predicting which market value winner and loser, except in the cases where you have a very well-built trade calculator. Again, the closest one we've found is the one we use on the Flock site. But trade calculators are like Nathan just demonstrated, pretty easily manipulated. Okay. And the other thing trade calculators are bad for is persuading people that they're winning a trade. So if you go and it's like, you're actually winning this trade, you should do it. Number one, that's stupid. But number two, you're going to completely turn somebody off from trading with you. When somebody comes to me and I say, I don't want to do that trade, and they're like, but you're winning it. And I'm like, if I was winning it, I would do it. I would make the trade, right? Why would I deny a losing trade? So it's terrible for that. So never send somebody a screenshot and be like, yeah, you're actually winning this trade, because that's probably, that's a move that only works about 10% of the time, if that. So I would just recommend you keep that one out of your repertoire. So trade calculators, again, the best ones on the Flock site. Outside of that, I wouldn't use them except for a starting point and to use against people. Let's talk now about rankings versus ADP. This is one that we're big on this, and we've popularized the ADP in terms of using that for market value and using it for our dynasty teams. Yeah,
so this is one of the many reasons that Avery and I aren't a huge fan of rankings in general. And people are like, oh, when we do a rankings video, which again is just kind of our opinion with a little bit of market value base in it, but they're like, oh, how dare you rank that person over that guy? They're not even close in no, they're not close in value. It's our personal preference in a vacuum. Rankings are all vacuum in theory. There are plenty of flaws in the way that we rank as a community these different players. And it's because it completely throws away value for a lot of people. And at the end of the day, it really just becomes kind of shots called and who you think is going to outproduce others, and then a little bit of age there as well. So with rankings, there's a couple things that they are good for, and that is seeing your own opinion of players. Like I already said, if you're able to kind of just on one spreadsheet able to see, okay, I prefer this guy over that guy, you can kind of navigate your trades a little bit better when you're negotiating with your league mates. You can also look at other creators' opinions of players as well, not just your own, especially if, you know, you're not sure about a guy or your take on them, and are they going to be a good asset in the NFL, you know, as a rookie prospect or even a veteran? Are they going to fall off, or are they going to continue their illustrious career like a Devontae Adams or a Mike Evans? You can use other creators' rankings and their opinion of those players if you know, believe that they're kind of a level up from you in the way that you view prospects and things like that.
We are not a level up. Do not use our rankings to make outrageous trades.
We are not. I'm talking about like
actually smart people.
Right. Like people who are NFL scouts.
Let's make something perfectly clear.
Exactly.
People say we're experts. Not correct.
Right. Correct. You can also cross-reference with ADP to kind of find value discrepancies. So that's a really big one too. And that's the whole concept around buys. Right. So when you analyze ADP and you're like, okay, the market says that this player is ranked here, but I think he's actually 2 rounds more valuable than where he's currently being ranked, then that's what constitutes a buy.
That's the definition of a buy.
When your opinion supersedes like that of market value.
Yep.
So that's another good use for rankings. But again, they're bad for, why would you use rankings for a startup draft? Even though I think TJ Hawkinson's a buy, I'm not dumb enough to take him in the 4th round, even though that's where I think he should be going. I'm not going to reach on him 3 rounds earlier than where he should be going. He's going in the 7th round right now of your startup drafts. I'm taking him in the 7th round. I'm not taking him in the 4th. I'd be ridiculous if I did that, even if it ends up paying off, because I just lost my chance at gaining value with TJ Hawkinson. The other reason it's a terrible idea is using it during trades, right? If you tell your league mate, well, I think this guy's way better than this guy. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is not near as good as DJ Moore. That's why you should give me like that's why you should give me Jackson Smith-Njigba, because you're getting the better player. Like what do we do?
You're,
like,
you're either selling yourself short or you're trying to rip somebody off. And so
yes.
I think, you know, using somebody else's rankings during trades, using our rankings, whatever, bad idea. But let's play. You're bad cop. I'm good cop. Good cop is ADP.
Okay.
Good cop is ADP because ADP is what people should use like people use rankings. That's the honest truth. Why? Because ADP is not opinion, it's market value, right? It's factual. And you want to play things based on the market. We talk about this all the time on our channel, so I'm not going to go into that whole spiel. But what's it good for? It's good for seeing the market value and opinions of players, right? So what does the market think about this player? Because although I maybe would take TJ Hawkinson in the 4th round, I can get him in the 7th, meaning I can get 3 other better players before I get TJ Hawkinson, right? So, and then also when you're making trades, like, okay, this guy is as an ADP right now in the mid 6th, and the guy I want is in the mid 8th. So if I'm not down tiering, if the guy wants to make a 1-for-1 move, I'm not making that trade because I'm selling myself short based on what other people in the market would pay. Now, a lot of people would fight back on that. It's like, okay, every league's not the same. True, you're dealing with different opinions. But again, different opinions and people's opinions are not reasons to make or not make trades. That's a terrible idea. If somebody doesn't want to give you a fair deal, don't trade with them. Hold your value, especially in value-insulated players. And other people will say, well, that doesn't really work when you have leagues that don't trade. That's somewhat true. Play in leagues that trade. That's all I would say there. Use ADP to find value versus rankings, like Nathan talked about. The definition of a buy is when a certain individual, because buys are completely subjective, right? A certain individual has a player ranked higher than what their ranking is in market value ADP. That's what a buy is. That's the basic definition of a buy.
They're projections.
You can use it. If you're really into Dynasty and you want to make your own rankings, you can figure out who you're higher on and who you're lower on. One of our first tools we sold when we had a locals page was the CRBST, a cross-reference buy-sell tool, which basically was our rankings, keep, trade, cut, difference. And then we'd sort by biggest differences and then biggest negative differences, and we'd find the buys and sells that we'd put on our videos. That's how you find buys and sells. You can use ADP during startup to find good value or make sure you're taking the value. Nathan and I, you've seen us draft live on the channel. What do you think we have in front of us? Market value rankings. We wouldn't go a draft without market value rankings. I'm not checking rankings when I'm doing startups. I'm not checking my rankings. I don't care about my rankings when I'm doing a startup. I don't care how I value players. I care about market value. And some people say that's not a fun way to play. Make your own rankings, make your own evaluations. You play like that. That's fine. I have fun this way. You know why? Because I have fun winning money. I really like cash. It's a big trade of mine that people have now caught on to. I want to win money. And so this is fun to me. I'm going to have fun by doing that. I'm tracking value month over month. We use our ADP tool for this. And again, trade calculator, rankings, great. We love them. We use them on the Flock site, but we ourselves put on the Flock site every single month an updated Dynasty ADP database because we think people should be using it in place of rankings or in correlation, in conjunction with rankings. And so we post that to our members every month. It's a big database. It has got the standard deviation. You can see the guys who are really the most volatile players in Dynasty at the moment. You can also see the minimum and maximum taken in the drafts that were sampled for the ADP. You can also see change month over month. So you can see the biggest risers and fallers and kind of really look at the market value from a 5,000 feet level. So if you want access to that, if you want access to all of the tools that we talk about in here, including League Analyzer, My Teams, team reviews, all of it, flockfantasy.com/domain gets you all of the tools. It gets you a team blueprint when you sign up for the annual tier, and it gets you us. And you get our opinion. And no, we're not experts, but we do have a pretty good pulse on what the market is doing, what the Dynasty community is up to. So Flocky said, flockfantasy.com/domain, use code domain when you sign up. And again, you can get a team blueprint even if you're not a domain member or even any member of the site. So both of those links are down, pinned in the comment section and in the description. So ADP again, and good for analyzing historical trends. ADP is bad for, I don't know what ADP is bad for. It's pretty much just good. ADP is probably our most used tool in Dynasty.
I think one of the biggest shortcomings is you can get too married to ADP where you always literally just take the most valuable player. If you've got guys in a very clear tier in ADP and it's like, which one do I take? Oh, I'll just take the top guy even though I don't like him the most. At that point, you can go with your preference. You can go with who you think is the buy, or you can avoid the guy who you think is the sell and maybe even let him fall a little bit. Yeah. So, but again, that's not the ADP's fault. That's more the way that you're treating the ADP, which is...
Well, and again, you said it. The solution, that's a good point, and the solution to that problem is tiers. Tiers solve that problem.
Yes.
Because you can take anybody inside of a value tier and not feel like you're losing value. Once you, that's the thing. Use ADP to determine value tiers. Once you have the value tiers, take the player in your opinion that you think is the best player in that tier. Yes. So it's not like your opinion is completely out of the picture in this. It's just start with something objective and then go to subjective.
Yep. And make sure that you have the right source of ADP as well. There are a lot of sources of ADP out there. Sleeper has ADP. And honestly, Sleeper's ADP is awful. It's terrible. And it is like the number one place where people play Dynasty, and any format, any league settings, whatever, it's always going to be on Sleeper. 80% of the time it's going to be on Sleeper. You can't trust that ADP to be accurate for you. Sometimes you really got to go down the list to see who's actually market equivalent. Keep Trade Cut is technically ADP. It technically is the way that it's formatted as ADP, and people use it like that. Be careful because a lot of those values are skewed, especially the closer you get to the season and the closer you get to rookie drafts. Rookies will, skyrocket up boards. And the closer you get to the NFL season, you're going to see those veterans and those point scorers skyrocket up boards, and those rookie picks will go down lower. And it's kind of the game. What you want to do is, and how we use our ADP tools, we actually find real money drafts that people have done in our community. We have them send them over to us and we compile them all. And it's really high quality ADP because these are legitimate drafts where we know the settings, we know they're accurate, and we know there's not going to be any crazy outliers. Look through every single pick to make sure that it's within reason.
Again, within a certain range. I make sure it's not a home league. A lot of people send things to me. It's like, yeah, it's a home league.
Yeah, well, Christian McCaffrey in my Superflex league went at the 101. Okay.
Yeah, we're not
throw
using
it away.
that.
That's not accurate.
And
ADP.
again, like, we may not be experts, but we have good ADP data. I'm going to plug it again. Become a member of the site. Monthly or annual, doesn't matter. You get the ADP data because it is the tool that we use more than anything.
It's really good.
Again, I get all of these submissions. I handpick all the drafts based on what I see. This is handpicked for refined ADP data that you can use immediately for your dynasty leagues.
Handpicked and not skewed.
And not skewed,
So-
right? Can I do the next section? Because I want to
Yeah,
rant
go
about
for it,
this,
sir.
and I'll let you do.
Yep.
So league analyzers. Let's talk about this because we have a brand new My Teams over on the Flock site. If we can have some pictures as we talk about these features, Luke, so people can see kind of what we offer. Really good tool. It's really good to see how you stack up against your league, what your community, because Flock has community rankings. And so you can sort by the community. You can kind of see the market value. It's closer to ADP than anything, right? Just like Keep Trade Cut, but it's better than Keep Trade Cut because of the way we collect data. And then you can see how in the community rankings you compare against your league, right? So a really cool team. And you can click a button right there and get a team blueprint, right? And we talked about a team blueprint. So league analyzers should be used for an opinionated, zoomed out value perspective. There is opinion. You can sort by creator as well. You can drop down and do my rankings and see how I would have your team ranked in the league. You can see how Nathan would. You can see how any of the other creators on Flock would. And you can also see the community. And again, communities, but again, it's an opinionated, zoomed out value perspective, right? You can also use them for fun. Okay, it's fun. It's fun to look at your team like that. All right, here's what you shouldn't use them for because this is ridiculous.
Dynasty Daddy.
League analyzers, and Dynasty Daddy is a good site. Right? Look at Dynasty Daddy and look at Flock. Like, obviously, there are similarities between the two because Dynasty Daddy did a really good job building their site. And one time I said something about Dynasty Daddy, and Dynasty Daddy commented on our video. And so, shout out Dynasty Daddy. But here's what League Analyzer should not be used for. Your League Analyzer should not be used to determine whether you're contending or rebuilding in a year or where your team actually sits in the landscape. It is not gospel. It's not that important. It's not that accurate. And only you know that. Only you know that, hopefully, with a team blueprint or some other type of advice, like, hey, here's your 3-year outlook, make these moves. Don't rely on a league analyzer to do that for you. Use the league analyzer in conjunction with a team review or one-on-one advice or something like that, and that's how you use it. Don't use league analyzers to try to build the sexiest team, because then here's what happens. You end up as a Dynasty Twitter loser who goes on there and talks about how they have the formula, how your process is bad, blah, blah, blah. And then they go and like, oh yeah, I'm not winning any of my leagues, but here I have the top league in all my Dynasty Daddies. Somebody did that to me one time. That's why I don't go on Twitter anymore. I'm like, are you serious? Did you just post a league analyzer and tell me that that's the reason you didn't win any money this year, but you're proud that you have the best roster according to a league analyzer? Do not use league analyzers to screenshot and send to your league mates or to your team or to our Discord or whatever and say, look how good my team is, guys. Doesn't matter because you can't replace human intelligence. You can't do it. And again, a league analyzer should be used as a fun, cool tool to kind of see where your team's at overall. Cool tool. Mm. But again, don't show your team off like an idiot. And then don't brag that you're first in your league analyzer. That's like honestly kind of cringy. But anyways, a better way to figure out what your actual long-term trajectory of your team is with team reviews. And team reviews is something that's very popular. You buy team reviews people buy team reviews from us, but they buy team reviews from Dynastyland, right? They buy team reviews from Flock. They buy team reviews from FSC.
Yeah.
And so
and using, I mean, it is really, really helpful to get multiple perspectives on the same team because you're looking at your team all the time, right? You're constantly looking at the same players, the same picks, the same situation, and not many things on the day-to-day are going to be changing outside of, the trades that you make a couple times a week. And that can be, you can start to get tunnel vision with your team. It's really, really nice to have a community or have a group of people that you trust that has a good grasp on how to utilize ADP and market value to help you make deals where you say, hey, I've got this trade example here. I've got this trade scenario. I've got this offer from a league mate. What should I do with this deal? What should I add on to make it worth it for me? What should I take out to make it worth it for me? Right. Or does this make sense with my team build? Do I have the right thought process? That type of advice from a community that you can trust is invaluable, and I cannot tell you how often I ask him about a deal that someone has offered me.
This may sound stupid. Make fun of me for it. I don't make a trade without asking Nathan. Unless Nathan says yes, I'm not doing it. And I mean, that's not necessarily true. There are times when Nathan's like, I wouldn't do that, and I'm like, yeah, you're crazy. I'm doing it. Yeah. But every single trade I get, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? It's
just a fact check. It's like a hey. Because
if you're always acting on your own opinion of players, you're going to end up tripping in Dynasty. Right. Whereas the more you check the community, the more you're in tune with value and the more that you're going to be successful with your trades long term. I ask you every single time I get a trade offer. So whatever. Yes.
Yeah, so draft and research guides as well. So a draft guide, a general research guide, which I think we have a couple coming out soon as well on the site. Those are really going to help you again with determining buys and sells, determining market value discrepancies, determining players that are currently ranked at a certain price in ADP that might be overvalued because of their production and it may not be sustainable. I mean, we just did a whole video on an example of that with all the guys that were in that range of about 110 targets in 2023, and which guys can maintain or even increase in production and which guys might have a fall off if they don't kind of get more targets or more opportunity in 2024. So statistical models as well. That's kind of the same concept there. What?
I'll go. I can give you a note on this one as well.
Go for it.
Statistical models can be a little bit overhyped because it's the cool new thing to do now. We talked about the bakery.
They're not gospel. That's for sure.
No. But the bakery has been around for a long time. And you know what the number one thing, I wonder if you can see where I'm going with this. Do you know what the number one thing I like about the bakery is and why I think it's more accurate than almost any other model?
It doesn't give grades off of what you think you see on film.
Yes. Again, there's nothing subjective in that model. The bakery is going to be available, by the way, at flockfantasy.com/domain for code domain users very soon. But everybody wants to make a model, right? We have multiple models over on the site. I see models on Twitter. All the people are building models on Twitter all the time. I see them. And when I go into a model and I see that they're rating certain traits or whatever of a player, and that is factoring into their model score, I'm not going to pay attention to that model.
There's nothing that ticks me off more than the people on Twitter that tell you that they're a better scout than the NFL scouts, or that they have, this hit rate for how they've analyzed these rookie prospects going into the NFL. And I'm like, honestly, I liked Puka Nacua as a rookie. I thought that he was, a really good dart throw in the 4th round of your rookie drafts. Really, anytime you got him, I was like, go ahead and take him. Why
it's on
not?
Video.
If you didn't listen to me, I don't blame you. I really don't, because I had zero statistical analysis for why I thought that Puka Nacua could be successful in the NFL. It was all based on my eyes. For every Puka Nacua that I'm right about, I'm wrong about 10 other freaking N'Keal Harrys. Like, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. So
be careful.
But case in point, like last year, I had CJ Stroud as my QB1. Hooray! Guess who my QB1 was the year before that? Malik Willis, baby.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just speculating. And processes get better. But again, anytime with statistical models, because statistical models are all the thing now, all the rage. And also, it's late enough in the video that I will clue you in a little bit about my personal life. Graduated with a degree in actuarial science. I took 3 years of upper level stat classes. I'm a data scientist. I'm literally ingrained in this stuff. And also
Dynasty Twitter's smarter than me.
Well, it's just funny because we have people try to it's the only thing I'm probably actually qualified to talk about is math.
Data.
Because I have a math degree and I have people mansplaining math to me in our comments and on Twitter. I'm like, okay. I mean, people misuse R squared values all the time and talk about correlation like this. Oh, see, this is more accurate than the NFL's correlation. And I'm like, you are acting 100% in hindsight. It's not my point of that is we understand this stuff. I understand this stuff. Oh gosh, Nathan, we understand this stuff. We do. And even then, statistical models aren't everything. So that was more of a little rant there. But we should wrap up. Again, all of these tools, all of the tools you need, all of the tools you should get are on flockfantasy.com/domain. You should use our code. You should get a team blueprint. The best way to approach this, the best way to use Dynasty tools. Step 1. Sync your team on the My Teams page on Flock. Step 2, submit for a team blueprint. Step 3, use your team blueprint. Use all the tools in conjunction with the team blueprint and with our one-on-one advice, and then win your league. And I'm not even doing that as a plug. I'm telling you, we help so many people flip their teams. I mean, we're doing follow-up blueprints now that we're like, dang. We had you as a rebuild this year, and you're going to contend, right? I'm not. Yes, I want you to come spend money on the site that I work for. That's true. I'm not kidding. It is the best way to do it. So, and the ADP tool alone is the most used tool that I use, and probably him as well. So, flockfantasy.com/domain. Again, the links are going to be down below. But I hope that helps. How to use Dynasty tools. Very popular. Everybody's creating new tools all the time. It's all great, but you got to be careful with it. Appreciate you guys so much for watching. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you later.